Hi, welcome to Cal's Micro Company, and my name is Cal Sinez. I'll be your instructor for today. So now, once you create, from the previous video, we created your first account and what's that account linked to, and we're gonna be looking forward into your first area for Tinkercad. So right now, we're gonna begin is the overall of the entire your account profile, and that will begin your first design. So this is what it looks like right here on your first account and your profile. What it looks like, you have these options. You have 3D design, circuit, code blocks, and lessons. And that's that. There's your classes if you want to be an instructor, but again, it depends on who's your school from your areas and how knowledgeable you're into the Autodesk. Or you can actually suggest someone else to actually create an account for your classes, and that way they'll have a class from there. So we have these three options. We have 3D designs, which is you can actually you can create your 3D components. Circuits is the ones that you use toward Arduinos. Basically, it's a platform that you actually design your own circuit map out and the layout to have them understand how to create your own circuit boards with Arduino's service. But right now, we don't have Arduino just yet. That'll be until later on. Code blocks is another one too as well. It shows you how you do the codes with the Arduinos. That way you have to worry about programming, and not that you can actually do the programs onto the coding. And then lessons is basically the lessons, how you implement these ones. But again, if you want to go this direction, that's okay. But it's just limited to whatever resources that they have so far, and then you go from there. Okay, let's go to our 3D design. Let's go to create new. And yes, TinkerCAD does take internet sources. So if you have an internet at home, make sure it's running okay. As long as it's a little bit limited toward RAM, so that's good news. It's not like SolidWorks or Venture Professional. It does take a lot on the RAM, and it will tend to heat up a lot. But again, but those two are off online. But these ones are online, so kind of be careful on your internet sources. If it does lag out every now and then, it will take time for it to render up again. So make sure to rewind the video over and over on the video channel. Okay. So this is the work plane and the work area that you have right now that's already open. You have the names up here that's already been given. If you want to change it, you can change it too as well. You have the origin cube right here. This is the origin that you can actually change direction. So if I want to go to the corner, you can go to the corner. Or I can go in the right corner, go to the right. And yeah, it does take a long time for it to actually render through. Go to the front and go to the corner again. So this is the origin cube that you want to look into, and it does take a while for it to actually render through. You have the home, which goes at its own place. So if I was I'm going out of somewhere, if I got lost, you just go to home and it'll go back to your own position. Zoom in is basically fit all. Basically, it'll go into the specific items if you have made it, and that if you can't see it very closely, you can actually zoom in to the specific area and go from there. Zoom in. You have the plus. You can actually click onto it, go in, and then minus is go out. The same thing. And after that, we go as the switch views right away. That we'll discuss that later on. Okay. Then on to the right, you have these options on the tools again too as well. You have the shapes that's already been given to you. You have the indicator for the files where you can actually get more other ones that's already been designed here. From the previous videos before, they don't have these ones right away. Right now, they updated to newer versions that you can actually have these infinite items right away. You can actually use that's already been made from the company. So kudos for them, and then I thought they did a very well job with it. But at the same time, if you want to create your own materials and you want to learn more, further advance later on in the future, you can learn down later on in the future. It does take time for it to build up. Up here, you have the other tools as well. We'll check it out later on in the future. Another feature too on top, we'll see that one later on in the future as well. And another one's on this side too as well in the future. But right now, we can actually use this right now. There's a few of them. That's it. So the first one we're going to do is using the shapes. How do we get into the shapes? If you have a mouse, you have these three buttons. You have the left button, the right button, and you have the scroller, but also you have a clicker on the middle mouse. You can actually feel it, just click on top of it, just push it down. Don't scroll it like moving forward and backwards. Just apply pressure on top and you'll hear a click. That way you'll know it. And that one of the options too as well you guys have to do is if you hear click, you have to click it once. That's it. Scroll in. You have to scroll in and hold down your left button. Hold down your right button means like you hold down your left button and that's it. It'll like maneuver anywhere else. Then you do the same thing with the right side. You hold your right button, hold it down, and you maneuver it around. That's it. So there's a difference between click, hold it down, and scroll. So remember that phrase. So again, on your mouse, if you have the on options, if you have the scroller, you can actually zoom in and out. Your middle scroller is the same thing as maneuvering, but you can actually pan it, so it'll grab the entire screen. So use your scroller, click onto it, and just maneuver around. It'll scroll. It'll maneuver everywhere else. You got to move the plane area. So again, the scroll is like a zoom in and out, and then holding it down will actually pan the entire screen. On your right, you can orbit. It's the same thing as a cube, but a lot more of maneuvering to your own manually. So you can actually right click it and hold it down, and after that you can actually maneuver it. So, and then lastly is the left. Hold down your left is gonna be selecting all of it. So you'll see a red dot lines that you can actually highlight the entire areas, and that it'll like select the one of the specific areas. So you have the one you can actually go to the left, or you can have the ones that you can go to the right. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now let's go begin adding our first cube right here onto the work plane. So I'm gonna go over here to the cube right here. I'm gonna click it once, bring it out here, and I'm gonna click it out here on the plane, and go from there. You can position it anywhere else on the work plane, just as long as it's an area. If you go outside the area, don't worry, you can actually grab onto it and move it over inside of it. You can also too as well. You can actually move it around. Same thing again. You can actually move around the cube every once in a while. Okay. Now on the cube, once I select it, you have these menu popped up. So there's a little small menu that pops up. You have solid and whole. Don't worry, we'll learn that one along the way in the future. We have the radius, which is on the edges if you want to fill it. So if I'm going to do the radius, it'll become like a smooth texture. Steps means like the amount of, I would say on the corners too as well. I would say, but I think that's how it looks like for the steps. But I think other shapes will have that one steps too as well. It just depends on how many you want it. So I'm going to go back to 10. Yeah, the length, width, and height. These ones are kind of okay and optional, but again, it tends to like go positive, negative in one specific areas rather than just scaling your cube right away. So I'd rather not bother with these ones just yet until we learn the other dimensions. Okay, so on your cube, this guy right here, the one I'm moving around, this cube is the one that you focus on here. You have these little dots that is already on this cube. You have, let's see here, about 4, 8. You have 9 cubes, 1 triangle, and these 2 little arrows that has a curves onto it. So let me explain the cubes right here. You have these white cubes that indicates your dimensions. As you can see, when I go on top of it, once it goes from white, it goes to red. It'll show you the dimensions. It'll show you the into millimeters. All you do is click it once onto the corner. That's it, and it'll select that one corner right away, and it'll activate the dimensions. If you click the other ones too as well, same thing again, vice versa. It'll do the same thing again to actually open up the dimensions right away. And once you do that, you go inside these texts. You click it once, and once it turns blue, you can type it in your numbers. So I'm going to type in 25 millimeters, enter, and it'll maneuver it right away. Type in this one too as well. Click it till it turns blue. Type it in, and there we go. And that's it. And that the next one is going to be on the top. The top one is the one that you'll be using as the height. So this one changes the height too as well. It'll show you dimensions. Same thing again with the same thing with these corners. I just go on top of it, click it, and it'll activate the height. Same thing again too as well with the other dimensions. Click onto these the areas for the numbers, and then you type in 25. Enter, and go from there. So on your keyboard, just type in 25 and click enter. It'll be on your keyboard. Okay. Next one is these other cubes. You have the same thing again, vice versa. It's the same thing with these dimensions, but it's just selected to the middle areas. Those are another option because It depends on what type of shapes it is. If you're making like another component onto it, that's fine too as well. That will learn that later on in the future. Okay, next one is these arrows with the curves. These indicates your how you uh, rotate it. There you go, rotate. So you have one at the bottom, which rotates at the flat area, or I would say is the X and Y area. So if I was to click onto this one, same thing. It'll be black, but once you go on top of it, it'll turn red and it'll have a radius around it. I hold on to it and you just rotate it, and it'll rotate right away. And if you want to add in the numbers too as well, you just click on the number. You can just type in 90. It'll rotate 90 right away. If you want to rotate 45 degrees, same thing, 45. And you can actually see the cube, it went from the straight horizontal to vertical into a incline, or into a obtuse or a acute angles. So it'll like make a different angles besides making a straight line. Okay, and we go back to the 0, or back to 45 again. There we go. And then this one too as well. I'm gonna go to the front view. This one actually rotates it's the opposite as the X and Y plane area. This one rotates on the front or onto the Z and X. Or actually, it rotates onto the Z, but it'll rotate onto the X and Y axis. You'll see it. So once you click on this arrow, click it once, same thing again. And after you type in a number, I'm going to type in 45, see what happens. Type in 45. And it rotates the same thing again into a triangle. Besides having a straight vertical upward, it'll like make another angle again. And once I move over around too as well, you can actually see the cube actually rotates another one too as well. If you want to do the same thing again this way or here, there's another one that will activate another 3-dimensional again. Click onto that one. I'm going to type in 45. And we'll make a diamond. Look at that. And you notice that this shape is at the bottom right here at the work plane. All you got to do is just click onto it, bring this guy upward, and then you just bring in the height. And you can actually see the numbers right away. You have the ones with the actual numbers as positive, and here's the number that is negative. You notice that we're at -2, but once you bring it up to 0, you can actually bring it up to 0 too as well. Okay, let me go restart everything else now back to position. So right here on this first icon, it'll say undo. Or you can actually hover on top of it. You can actually do Control Z if you have a keyboard or mouse. But if you forgot about it, don't worry. If you have a force of habit, just go over here and undo it. Don't worry, both ways works. Okay, so let me go undo it right away. There we go. And that activates the redo again, or Control Y. Yeah, that one you just move it forward. So you just fast forward your work. Okay. Now the last one too as well is the how it looks like. So if you want to don't have to worry about the dimensions and don't use anything else on the measurements, don't worry. You can actually hold onto these guys, hold onto these corners. You can actually play around with it. This is the height too as well. Bring this guy too as well. It actually maneuver the same dimensions again. And the same thing with the your rotations too as well. So if you want to rotate it to certain areas, rotate this way too as well. If I want to try that. Same thing again. If you want to do it manually to take control of it, that's okay. That's fine with you. If you want to have a different directions or a different design that you want to try, that's on your choice too as well. Okay. That is all I have for today. This is your first video, or this is the second video for your first work plane and your first cube. Next videos is to control the other components. That'll be actually learn more of the other tools again. So we're just learning little steps by steps again. That if you get confused or anything like that, you guys go back onto this one again. But this is the same thing as vice versa. You just click onto these shapes, put onto the work plane, just mess around. Just put any shapes onto here to mess around the size on that one, the blocks that I showed you. Okay. Hope you guys learned this one. Give me a like and subscribe, and also follow me on the Business for Callus Market Company, and then look onto for future events. Okay. Have a good day.